So verse 20, chapter 4, the question was stated, where do you find your peace and contentment? Because we're no longer children. You don't find it in toys, obviously. We don't find it in fantasy, how life is going to be so wonderful one day in the future. This is all a stage, but as an adult, things have to change. And sometimes we don't really grow out of that childhood idea that, life is supposed to be all wonderful and everything's supposed to work out well. So Krishna is now discussing with a one common theme, and he says, relinquishing this idea that things have to work out my way. And this is the topic. We started an inquiry saying you cannot put your sense of contentment or peace in external situations, because external situations are designed in such a way that they're not made to make you happy. The world is not made to make you happy. This is big news. The world is made to accommodate the needs of everyone. There is so many people, so many interests, so many desires, so many ideas, what's the right way to live. And so it's unrealistic to expect life to say, I'm here for you to be happy. This is an idea that a child carries, and this idea has to go. So this is what Krishna is reminding us. This idea that life is wonderful and I am the center of everything. This is not true. You are one of the many, like a tree in a forest. And that tree has a function connected to other trees, the roots and so on. So therefore, placing your peace in outcomes that are variable and changing, and that stability to be expected, your peace to be expected to remain, is simply unrealistic because it's being put in places that themselves are unstable. If I put my peace, and nobody wants unstable peace, nobody wants unstable contentment. What we're looking for is a general contentment, a general peace, nothing extraordinary, nothing flamboyant, just a general okayness, all rightness in life. So to put that and make it contingent on factors which of themselves are not and cannot remain the same is simply immature and unrealistic. So he keeps on saying, thus to put my sense of contentment in results of actions, in outcomes, does not work. It never has worked. And the whole idea of it working comes from the child, the little child who didn't know about money, didn't know about wars, didn't know about all of the challenges of life. And so they expected things to work out, to find a knight in the shining armor, to marry the perfect woman, to have the perfect husband, to have the perfect family. All these ideas, they are simply unrealistic. Even though it is possible through your sincere efforts, but to expect things to work out exactly, this is what he is advising against. And then we said, secondly, where do you put your peace and your contentment in? Since it's not possible to make it rely on external factors turning out in a way that you want them to, then the brain is going to now ask, then what do I put my contentment and peace in? Because see, the mind always wants to fill. If you just say, don't put it here, then what's the mind going to ask next? Without asking directly, it's going to ask, then where do I put it in? Right? So the mind always wants to be somewhere. It has to have a place, a solid base to rest in. Then Krishna follows up and he says, it is in the qualitativeness of your actions. That means the quality of your actions, they are well-intended. And even if they are well-intended, most of the time, the person, the recipient, will not likely express that appreciation in the way that you probably think you should receive. And so that doesn't matter, because Sometimes people just don't have the time to express their appreciation. Sometimes they're afraid to express their appreciation. Sometimes they think that you don't need to be, sent, a letter of gratitude, of appreciation. Sometimes they think it's a professional relationship, so there's no need to express gratitude. So there are so many factors. Sometimes one is taught, and they say, well, just keep it to yourself. So there are many factors why appreciation is not expressed to you for your hard efforts. See, we have this idea that one day, okay, someone will come on their knees and say, oh, you've been the greatest. Thank you. You've been my savior. Oh, you deserve so much recognition. Oh, without you, I could have not done any of this. So this is a fantasy. And this fantasy too has to go away because this is not how life works. Therefore, where do you find your contentment in peace and peace? It is in the intention, the well-intended intention behind your actions. Suppose that you expect someone to apologize. Okay, someone has maybe said something or hurt you or mistreated you, or you felt like mistreated. Maybe you were not mistreated and that was not their intention, but maybe you felt like it, or maybe you were. Okay, so either way, this is a reality. And maybe it's a close member, because usually the close members, they usually have a much larger sting than those who are just on a professional basis, like clients and friends and so on. And even students, right? You have a professional, you kind of have a distance, so it feels safe between teacher and student. But when it's someone that's there close to you, then it's a different story because there's a much larger chance for feeling that sting. So suppose there is a sting, okay? And you feel like, I cannot rest. I cannot be at peace. I cannot have contentment until I receive an apology. And so you say, until I receive an apology, I'm going to keep on pestering you because I am not at peace. Otherwise, why would you want an apology? There's always a reason why we want things. This is a motivation question, a question of motivation. What is the motivation behind me asking you to apologize? And the motivation is actually something very different than you might believe or think. And that's the little child, once again. Or let's call it the child. You see, everyone that's born starts out with two people who we call our mom and dad. And our mom and dad, like anyone else, had faults, which we didn't see this. And those faults, when done, the child had one narrative in their mind, and that said, you were supposed to love me. You were not supposed to abandon me. You were not supposed to walk away. You were supposed to tell me that I matter to you. You were not supposed to break me. You were supposed to be there for me and care for me. This is all the child hears in their mind because they don't know. And so they believe, the child, that love was conditional. For me to feel worthy of being loved by you again, you need to apologize to me. Until I hear that sorry, until I hear from you, my parent, my mom or dad, that I matter, that you made a mistake, that you stuffed up, I do not feel love. I need that apology from you so that I can feel complete once again. Because I come into this world ignorant. I do not know my nature. I am as much as a wave in a large ocean of endless waves. And that's all I know myself to be, one single wave amongst many. I need you to tell me, as long as I'm a wave, that I matter. Because deep inside, I know that I don't. A wave in a vast ocean is just a wave. Help me. But the parents didn't know. And so you keep on pestering and you keep on getting louder, hoping that perhaps he or she will see my pain and will once again make me whole and complete, worthy, that I matter. And so the kid waits endlessly and keeps on getting louder and louder. So now you ask, if it's the kid who really wants the apology, because no, the adult doesn't need an apology. The adult is an adult. The adult is self-sufficient, independent. And do you need an apology from a stranger who you don't know? You don't really care. You're okay. But you need an apology from those who you project as your mom and dad. It's called a relationship. And so in that relationship, that little kid says, I'm not at peace. I'm going to pester you. I'm going to keep on triggering you more and more and more until you say, and you look at me and you say something, because it's a lot better than being ignored. Even if you respond angrily, it's much better than being ignored because at least you care. This is a little child speaking. And so what an adult has to do is they have to firstly acknowledge this person from whom I want an apology from, they're not special. They're just an ordinary human being who is entangled by life's complexities just like anyone else, who is caught by the cycle of samsara, birth and death, who too has had an upbringing that was not perfect. They're not special. And this is a huge, huge step because we still look at that person close to us as our mom or dad. And so what the adult has to say is, child, you matter. You don't need him or her. That's a fact. You don't need him or her. You got me. You got me, the adult. I'm here for you. You're safe. You're protected. I care for you. And this can be tremendously healing when you tell this to that little child who you believe in a relationship. It's you who's getting angry. It's you who wants that apology desperately, but it's not you, the adult. It is that unhealed kid who never received and who thought that love was conditional until I received that apology, until you respond finally, only then I matter. So you have to tell that child, you matter. You matter. I see you. You realize most relationships were nothing but that unhealed child coming out, looking for that apology, looking to be seen in that special way, to be told you matter. Most relationships are actually nothing but healing the inner child. You have a little talk with yourself and you say, who's angry here? What's going on here? Who wants an apology? Who wants this look at me, hear me out? Who wants that? Is it me, the adult, or is it something in me that is still yet uninvestigated? And the answer is, it's something in you that is still uninvestigated. If you just have the right inquiry, who is this person that is discontent, dissatisfied, who needs the attention? Who is that? And you discover that person has nothing to do with you, and that person is actually safe and seen by you, the adult, in that moment, you can have a lifelong shift of that nagging, complaining child who needs healing from what they call my partner. More like my dad or mom who never gave me what I desperately needed. And it's not like you walk away. You just realize how truly independent you are. You don't need him or her. Now, when I say that, I don't mean, in a physical distancing. I just mean once in a while, looking at those who are close to me. Do you really need them to be you? Think about that. Do you really need anyone to be you? to be okay as you are. Another example is Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir was the Dharma Raja. He was the man of principle. And he implied that Drona, son, was killed, Ashwatthama. Of course, it was the elephant who was dead. It was not the son. Now, why do you think that Yudhishthir did this? To prank Drona? Or to stop Drona from engaging in self-destruction and supporting those who are on the side of destruction? Suppose that Drona didn't get killed. And suppose that Drona found out that Yudhishthira lied to him. That wasn't my son, that was an elephant. Why'd you lie? You're the man of word. You never lie. You're a fraud. Okay, big impact to Yudhishthira, the one who's got an immaculate track record of speaking the truth. And Drona now hates him. And he says, Yudhishthira is a fraud, he lies, he doesn't speak, he's not a Dharma Raja. Where do you think Yudhishthira would find his joy in? Or his not even joy, but just a general contentment and peace? In the fact that he failed, or in the fact that his actions, though seemingly deceptional, though he spoke the untruth, it was to turn Drona away from destroying himself owing to Drona's delusion, but also to help Drona not incur so much papam, because he was just killing good warriors left and right. So he was in his own delusion, and Yudhishthir saw this. Seeing this, what did Yudhishthir say? Suppose, hypothetical situation, he said, your son got killed. My intention was to discourage you from fighting so that you don't keep on destroying yourself further down into your own well of darkness. That's where Drona, that's where Yudhishthir's joy or contentment or well-being goes. Not in the fact that he failed to turn Drona away from the side of darkness. It is in the fact that as much as I may have deceived or lied, I did it. Why? To pull you out of your own self-destruction, because you couldn't see it, but I did. That's what Krishna is saying. Where do you find your contentment? In the well-intendedness of your actions. Even if someone doesn't appreciate you, even if Drona one day says, oh, thank you, Yudhishthira, you saved me, I didn't see, I was blind. Or suppose Drona, in most cases in real life, he will never do this. Because when people actually come up to you and say, you know what, you were right all this time. I mean, it happens once in a while, but do actually people in real life say, yeah, you know, I was a total idiot, I was totally delusional, I was stupid, I was, you know, egoic, and you were right all along. People actually do this? Hardly. Okay, so even if that doesn't happen, to Yudhishthir, it matters not. Because Yudhishthir's true place of peace and contentment is in the fact that I wasn't doing this to hurt you. I was doing this to protect you because you couldn't see it for yourself. That is where you find your contentment and peace in. Another situation in real life. Suppose your son or daughter has an addiction problem and they are heading towards a real dangerous situation, okay? Because their addiction is growing larger and larger and it's hard to stop and they're attracting the wrong crowd. Or even a daughter, suppose she's hanging out with a toxic man and you know from experience that this is not the right personality. My daughter is clean and she's hanging out with a man who's sending her down into a darker region. And you know exactly where this is go and how far it can go down the rabbit hole. Suppose you see this and your son or daughter or your friend or whoever it is, mom or dad, doesn't listen to you. And every attempt to help them out, they see you as infringing upon their right to be happy. Because we know from the Gita, when you have a desire and you become an obstacle to that desire, what follows? Anger. Okay. So now every time you try to help them out, they get more and more angry because you are an obstacle to their satisfaction, to their fulfillment. So now suppose that you say, okay, so then no matter what we did, it doesn't work. So let's try something else. Let's create a dinner situation. Let's say, let's just have a casual dinner. And what I'm going to do as someone who cares about them is I'm going to bring 2 more people at this dinner who, my son or daughter has a closer relationship to them. So now the son or daughter comes to the dinner table, and there's you, and there's these 2 more people. And you play it cool, like it's just a cool dinner. It's an ordinary casual dinner. But very soon, you already told these 2 people what the situation is. So very soon, you start to slowly introduce the topic, how drugs or a wrong type of relationship is destructive and a kind of path it can lead you to. Suppose you slowly start to introduce this, and your son or daughter or friend or whoever it is figures that out, and they lash out. They get up from the chair angrily, and they storm out and say, "You're a bunch of liars. This was just a casual. I know exactly why you came here, because you wanted to influence me." Okay? And this person, whoever it is, ends up resenting you even more. Where do you find your contentment? Or at least, let's not even call it contentment in this case, because it's a very sensitive situation. Let's call it strength. Where do you find your strength in this situation? You didn't intend to harm them. Yes, you did speak an untruth, but it was for the sake of trying to do something else, hopefully to influence them out of their own self-destruction. You see, there's this thing that goes on when we speak about, this is called the pseudo-spiritual approach. When it's about somebody else, then you just say, most say, oh, it's just let it all unfold. It's just Ishwara's, hands, destiny unfolding. It's their karma. Okay, and there's nothing you can do. It's just things are supposed to work out how they're supposed to work out. You can't stop it. This is how people like to talk when it's about things external to them. But the moment it's about our own life, within our own circle of influence, do you speak like this?
No.
Absolutely not. See what's going on here? You genuinely caring about this person, you will do something. That's a fact. Even if it involves deceiving initially to get across, because you know with clarity where this is all going. Therefore, even if they do not appreciate or cannot see the amount of work that you're genuinely putting across to save them from inevitable self-destruction, where do you find your sanity? In the fact that my action wasn't there to hurt you, it was there to help you. Why is this important? Because you too need to protect yourself, especially when it's a close relation. It's very easy to lose yourself in their own stuff. It's very easy to do that. So Krishna here is saying, what is your fallback? Where do you find your sense of sanity while you are genuinely being involved and trying to help out? It is in the quality of your actions, well-intended actions. And thus Krishna says, be not attached to the results of actions, because that is a recipe for discontent. Be not attached to results of actions, to outcomes, because that, what it's really saying is, be not attached to how things respond, how situations turn out, what people say, whether you succeed or fail in your attempt to positively influence someone. Be not attached to that, because that is outside your locus of control. And any time you put your contentment or sanity outside locus of control, that is a recipe for disaster. one day before passing over to the other side. An angel comes over and says, hey, so how was your life? And then you say, well, I started out very happy, cheerful as a child, and I didn't have any problems. I didn't know what money was, what conflict was. I was very safe in my parents' house. And the angel says, then what happened? Well, I kind of, found a girlfriend, boyfriend, and hormones were flying, and that was the awesome time of my life. And it was all happy, happy. Oh yeah, really. Then what happened? Then things started to go downhill. Angel says, why? Well, you see, I didn't listen to the words of Krishna. You see, Krishna has been around since beginningless time. He has seen the the effect of human struggle. He has seen it over and over again. You, amongst anyone else amongst here, has only seen it for the last 20 or 30 or 40, 50 years, like a little speck. Krishna, the Lord of the universe, has seen it all. He knows what works and what doesn't. And what you decided to do, you see, is you didn't decide to take the words of a master. You decided to expect to be happy based on things working out your way. And you say, yeah, that's exactly what I did. And then the angel says, then how did that work out for you? Well, it didn't. That's why I'm dying all old and worn out. And then the angel says, then what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to get reborn, and next life, I'm going to find myself in a class called the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 20. And someone's going to say that there's a man called Krishna who advises a different approach. And that approach is to find my sanity in well-intendedness of my actions. That is within my control, and that is what I will do in this life.
Honesty.
I think I will do that this time because all the other approaches have not worked. And so when he says, thus be not attached to the results of actions, of outcomes, of situations, what he's really saying is this word attachment, you have to look at carefully because we often say, don't be attached. Whenever you hear the word attachment, don't be attached, instantly what the mind should do is divide that word into two categories, healthy attachment and unhealthy attachment. Suppose you tell a mother, don't be attached. And I get this, right? Every once in a while. Hey, I'm a mother. I care about my child. Then the Gita says, don't be attached to anything. So how am I supposed to deal with that? Instant answer is, what do you mean by the word attachment? What is healthy attachment? Healthy attachment is you care enough to get involved, but you don't let the situation, when it doesn't work out, throw you off your center. That means, though I am acting like the family, like the Yudhishthir, like the other similar examples, though I care enough to do something about it, if it doesn't work out, if my son or daughter or friend or whoever it is storms out and hates me for trying to help them, and they cannot appreciate my well-intended actions, I do not lose my center. Why? Because my sanity, contentment is, I did this to help you. You may not ever see that. You may not even see it in this lifetime, but I am clear enough to recognize it. And that's what holds me strong. That's a healthy attachment. What is an unhealthy attachment? That is where you do get involved, and when things don't work out, what happens to my center? I fall down. I get emotionally affected. I lose my own composure. My own principles of life escape me. And now you have two injured people. Not one, now you two have joined the crew of confusion. So what's better, to have one person at least sane, or the only person who's sane to allow themselves to become insane too? I allowed myself to become insane. Why did you do that? Because I put my joy contingent on situations working out in a way that I expected them to, when in reality, that hardly ever happens. This is everyone's experience. No matter what they say, Nobody has life working for them 24/7 exactly in the way that you want. Therefore, I cannot expect to have an unhealthy attachment, because unhealthy attachment comes from not understanding the basic principle of life, is that it's not designed to make me happy. It's designed to accommodate the needs of 8 billion people, including fish and animals and the wind and the sky and the trees and the land and the oil, and everything is supposed to accommodate it. Would you do that, by the way? Could you create a world? Look at this. Create a world where somehow, by your intelligence, though it's not perfect, you create a world just enough so that people can still have a chance to shine their skills, to shine their brilliance. Although it's not perfect, but everyone still has a chance to walk the face of Earth and pursue what's important to them, and still make it in a way that people are not killing themselves left and right. Although it is not perfect, still you may find that left and right, but it is still just enough that you have a chance to figure it out. Nobody could do that. And yet the Lord has done that by his presence so magnificently. So what will I do with that knowledge? Will I just say, oh, great, thanks, Lord? Or, thank you, Lord. Let me now pursue what's important for me. If the first question is, where does a karma yogi find their contentment in and their peace? What is your answer based on everything I said?
In honesty of your intentions whenever you do something.
I always say to myself, helping others is no different to helping myself. And within that vicinity of what I can possibly do, that's where I get my contentment from.
By realizing there's a greater order and trying to take a bird's eye view of things and trying to distance yourself as like non-judgmental awareness when situations present themselves. And then you can mark your progress, because you can think, well, 6 months ago or 3 months ago, that would have really bothered me. But now I've got space between my reaction and response.
Good. Space between reaction and response. Beautiful. Let me ask this. Next time things don't work out as you genuinely intended, and they were very important for them to work out for you, it was important that they work out, what would be your response, hypothetically speaking, in the light of what we have discussed? Where will you find that strength when things don't work out exactly as you intended? Someone cancels something, someone doesn't come over, or maybe too many people come over, whatever it is.
I think it's just taking that view and stepping back and realizing, just as you said, that the world is not built to accommodate only our needs, it's everyone's needs. So if you step back and just as Ravi said, you have that pause, you kind of have a different perspective,
Exactly.
which allows you to see things a little more objectively and not so subjectively.
And not so personally, that I didn't get it my way, and therefore life is not kind to me. So you can go a long way. You see, my intention in this course is to create a palpable transformation, not just to give academic information, what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. I want us to walk out genuinely seeing the world in a much more kind of a wider stance, a deeper way. This is the heart of transformation. And so this is why I want to really hear from you. What has changed now, or what could change, having heard? Where do you find your ordinary sense of sanity and contentment in the light of this information?
I think I don't take life quite so seriously as well. There's a relaxation around who I am as a jiva, as well as the understanding of the greater who I am.
And so for me, I would think of, whenever I'm taking any actions, I make sure that I'm doing it to the best of my knowledge, for a greater good. It should, in sense, a little bit satisfy me, but it should be a greater good, and I should be contented with it, no matter what the result is. If it's as per my expectation, very good. If not, I'll probably rethink and try it a different way out. And I mean, that's it. I mean, that results are not in our hand. All in your hand is to do it with good intention, looking at it objectively, you know, taking all your experience into account and do whatever is good in that given situation.
If a karma yogi or someone that is on the journey is finding their contentment in the well-intendedness of their action, now the question is, where does a wise person, an enlightened person, find their contentment in? And the answer is in two places. You see, how do you come to a state of knowledge, moksha? It implies that you've already gone through this journey. Obviously, you don't just, one day wake up and it's all clear. So it implies there's a lot of effort, a lot of thoughtfulness went through on how you operate in this, how do you navigate this complex place? Or sometimes not so complex, right? So this means the wise person will also have the exact same understanding. The fact that my actions, as long as they're well-intended, I give myself the permission to be okay, to use that as my strength. At the same time, knowing that no action that I put out will ever be perfect. Because we discussed last week, every action that you put out is never well-informed. It always misses some variables. So you cannot expect any action ever in your life to be the perfect action. If I don't recognize and own up to this, then there will always be the secret idea that I'm supposed to do the right action. But even if you investigate for one whole day on what is the right action, tomorrow you will wake up after having applied that action, and that will give you some feedback, and that feedback will let you know that my action was way off, even though I just spent one whole day researching the right action. So the first thing we have to understand is no action will ever be the perfect action. All I can do is prepare enough, have a well thought through intention, well thought through information, packing it all up and delivering that action to the world, knowing fully well that action of itself was not perfect. So from now on, please put your hand up if you will think that I'm supposed to do the perfect action. Please put your hand up and I will pull out my spiritual machine gun. Because that's not going to happen. Okay, so please accept one fact. Your actions, as well intended as they are, bless them. It is still not the perfect action. That is okay. The Lord is not asking you to do the perfect action because you're not the Lord. You're not all knowledge, all power. You are limited knowledge, limited power. Even if you read all the books in the world, still, it would not be the perfect action. Why? Because every situation demands a different response. Therefore, no action, as well prepared as it is, will ever be perfect because the situation in itself is different. So that's the first place where the Jnani's contentment, relative contentment, rests. Where does the Jnani's absolute contentment rest? In the fact that I'm already whole and complete. Nothing can add onto me. And there will never be a time when any action or any non-action makes a statement about who I am already in this moment. I'm the very truth of the whole universe. I'm the material cause of the very cosmos. Everything here that is witnessed, including the person that's speaking now, is nothing but this one reality that I already am right now. So what is there to add on to me? What is there to subtract from me? Nothing. That's called absolute contentment. And that contentment does not manifest, even though it does at the level of emotions, that contentment is at the level of knowledge. Because when we say the word Sat Chit Ananda, so many people take this word Ananda and they say bliss. So the wise person is like as though in some parked in some kind of a bliss. And the first thing that the mind creates is some emotional state. They're parked in some constant emotional state that is never going down. What a huge error. And when life shows you soon enough that that is unrealistic, that you will never be parked in an emotional state, because that which parks itself in an emotional state, what is that? That's called the mind. The mind is designed to fluctuate. You cannot expect a permanent feeling in a fluctuating instrument, which is why we say your contentment as a wise person is not necessarily in emotion, it is in knowledge. That though there is an emotion of grief in this moment, I am in truth whole and complete right now. It is like the sugar cane. Suppose there's two sugar canes talking. Okay, there's a wise sugar cane and there's a unwise sugar cane. And the wise sugar cane is chilling out, okay? Now the unwise sugar cane says, you know, yesterday I was sweet. Yesterday I was, now suppose sweet is equated to happiness. Yesterday I was sweet. Today I'm not so sweet. And the wise sugar cane hears this and says, you see, my dear, you committed a mistake. Your nature is sweetness. You just said to me, yesterday I was sweet, and yet you are sweet right now. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to experience that sweetness. But in truth, you will not always experience that sweetness. Why? Because you still carry an instrument called the mind. And the mind is designed not only to experience sweetness, it's designed to experience grief, sadness, joy, excitement, curiosity, drama, whatever it is. And you want, out of all of them, you want to handpick one of them, say sweetness, and sweetness is what I want to experience. You need to understand, even if you don't experience sweetness, Mr. or Mrs. Sugarcane, your nature is sweet. That is Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. My nature is Ananda. That is a matter of knowledge. Whether that knowledge manifests at the level of the mind in the form of emotion or not, it probably won't, because you're still carrying many emotional pressures, many unconscious emotional stiflers that are denying the contentment that one is supposed to receive, supposed to enjoy as a result of the knowledge taking place permanently, and recognizing I am free of the whole instrument that is fluctuating day in and day out. I am free and I won't return after death. Even if you know that, it doesn't mean that you will have an emotion following up to that knowledge. Therefore, what do you have to do as a wise person? You have to do what's called, you know, in the police, when you ask them what happened, and they say
they're investigating.
And what kind of investigation? It's an, they call it
ongoing
investigation.
Ongoing, yeah.
So the police is going through an ongoing investigation. What wonderful words. It's true. So a jnani is like this fella who's going through an ongoing investigation, which in Sanskrit we call nididhyasanam, contemplation. So this means now that I've understood that though I'm not sweet today, my nature is sweet, but the sweetness emotion that's supposed to come with the recognition of that is not here. What do I have to do? I have to perform, not even perform, it's called, by definition, an ongoing investigation. There's no question of performing it. It's an ongoing investigation. I have to continue my investigation, continue listening to Vedanta, continue reinterpreting my experience in the light of this knowledge, just continue the whole journey. Furthermore, the wise person recognizes, who am I? I am the light of consciousness that merely illumines the doer performing the ongoing investigation. So whether that doer fails at the ongoing investigation or not, that has no bearing on me, the light of consciousness. So don't just stop, oh, I'm performing ongoing investigation. This is still the karma yogi. They're still putting their eye in the door. But the jnani is very clear. The one that's going through nididhyasanam, I'm not, right? I'm free of that person, free of that door, free of that ongoing investigator. So that's the difference between karma yogi's place of putting themselves inside contentment and the jnani's place of contentment. Let that be clear.
I guess, Andre, I'm still a little confused on the knowledge for the wise person, it's in the mind, right? Is that a true statement? Knowledge is you get the knowledge in the mind, but then the mind fluctuates. Like that's kind of, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, exactly. So was it 2 sessions ago, we said that who gets enlightened? And it cannot be Atma, because Atma is already whole, full, and complete. And Atma doesn't have a mind. Or Atma already knows itself, as a self-awareful being, I. So there's no question of Atma getting enlightened. Now, the mind cannot get enlightened too, can it? Because you just said it yourself very brilliantly. The mind's instrument is one that changes. So how can you now put enlightenment or knowledge inside an instrument that's changing? That would mean that today I've got enlightened, but then tomorrow the mind has changed. Tomorrow I'm not enlightened anymore. So you cannot say that it's the mind also. The only thing that you can say, like who gets enlightened, is that there was a beginningless ignorance operating, whose the center was I, and that I was carrying that ignorance, and the knowledge simply removed that ignorance. Now, whether you want to call that ignorance in the mind or the causal body, it doesn't matter. Just ignorance got removed. And tomorrow, when that one who removed their ignorance wakes up, are they a seeker? Do they continue seeking? Did I continue asking the question, who am I? I don't know. I haven't figured it out. Not anymore. Now look at this. This is very interesting. When a seeker wakes up, they're still a seeker. They say, I want to know who I am. So I'm going to go and book myself a pilgrimage, and I'm going to find out, I'm going to find a guru and go through some teachings, and I want to find the truth. I want this Brahman. I want this Brahman. Like Brahman's away from me, and I want Brahman. This is the seeker's language. They go to sleep and they wake up again. They still want Brahman. Then they come to the class, and having gone through their sadhana and practices, and the knowledge takes place. We call it the click. Technically, we call it the Akhandakara Vritti, Brahmakara Vritti. We will discuss these technical words later. The click happens. And there's a relief, a certain kind of a relief, like, wow, it was so obvious. It was there all along. I just couldn't accept the most obvious as I was turning it into like an object. How could have I missed it? Seriously. Awareness was always there, but something about me was denying it, was pushing it away. I just couldn't accept the most obvious. And you're baffled by this. It's like a wonder. How could have I missed something that was like literally here in front of me? It's like here, I missed it. You can't even explain it. But there's one thing for sure. You go to sleep and you wake up. And you go, wow, how could have I missed it? Wow. You continue your day, you go to sleep, you wake up. Man, how could have I missed it? It's amazing. It's so obvious. No more ignorance. Where did you wake up from? That's what we call your causal body. The causal body, that which causes your body and your thoughts. The causal body. Why is it called the causal body? Because it causes your personality. It causes your ignorance. But you woke up from deep sleep and you say, how could have I missed it? Wow. That means the person woke up from a place that no longer has ignorance, which means your ignorance is gone. So going back to what Sharmili said, where is this ignorance? You cannot say that it's in the mind. That ignorance is in the causal body. That's why when the wise person wakes up from the causal body, the causal body just means that which is the potential, that which stores, quote, stores your ignorance, stores your personality, stores your life. Wake up from that and you go, how could have I missed it? Wow. No more fascination with this whole knowledge, self-knowledge thing. It's clear. It's daylight clear. Once you solve the problem, it's gone forever. It cannot ever return. Therefore, knowledge, you cannot say is in the mind. Knowledge simply removes ignorance, and that ignorance is the causal body. So that means you've disconnected, you've destroyed ignorance in the causal body. So how is that, what's going on for you now, Sharmili, having said this?
I guess that part makes sense. Where I keep getting kind of caught up is like, so that person wakes up and then they say, okay, yeah, it's so obvious. Like, how did I miss this, right? And but they still have a mind, right? Like you still have the mind that fluctuates. You still have emotions, like you just explained, you know, a few minutes ago, that you have to manage. So is it just that that becomes easier for the wise person because they keep like knowing like, oh, okay, it's so obvious. So like as these emotions come up, they're better equipped to deal with it than the rest of us who are not enlightened? Is that the difference? I guess I'm just trying to apply it practically in like real life, like how it would affect all of us.
Sure.
I don't know if that's even possible though.
It has a little bit of it's a tricky question because you cannot quite apply self-knowledge at the level of the practical. It's the only time where the question is, how does self-knowledge help me? You see, who's this me that's asking? So how does self-knowledge, which I am the very self, how does that help me? So now there's two things. There's the self and there's me. Okay, so this means that when I recognize my nature, I'm always free of the person who continues to think, who continues to talk, who continues to teach, who continues to, right, help others out. So this means on one level, what helps you at the practical level is absolutely putting my sense of contentment, my ticket for contentment and peace in the qualitativeness of actions. That's number one. The second is, yes, it's true. At a certain level, you can say that knowing that you have nothing to gain or lose in this world, that certainly feels like the greatest relief imaginable. Because there's no person now who has to go out and please me because I feel small and incomplete. This is the driver of basically most commercialism. Right? I want to, like, you know, get a little bit of freedom, so I go and book a trip. It's all understandable. So now who's going to there to, you know, fill themselves up? Who's going there? Is it the self or is it the person? It's the person. In both cases, it's the I, but because the I in the stage of ignorance is mixed up with the deficiencies, with the inadequacies, which belongs to the mind, then I is inadequate. I becomes deficient. So the I goes over, and that's why I say I'm going over there to the holiday. Why? Because I want to kind of, you know, fill myself up with, you know, I want to fill my void. So now when the knowledge takes place, that person still remains, we call it the doer, the body-mind complex. Still, the thinking remains the same, the values remain the same. You know, if you're a cook, if the person's a cook, they still continue cooking. So nothing changes at the practical level. But what certainly does help out is the pressure of having to fill this I with endless experiences that goes away. And that can certainly go a long way in terms of creating a much more simpler, joyful, pleasing life. You don't have to stop, by the way, going. Doesn't mean when a person understands who they are, that they completely quit all basic, needs for entertainment. That's not true. But the pressure that this has to happen because I feel a void, that goes away. So can you appreciate how this might transform into day-to-day life? Having explained what I just said now.
Yes, it's helpful. The thing that the only doubt, I guess, still that remains in my mind, I totally get what you're saying and I understand and I agree with it too. But after a while, when you start listening to this knowledge and like, all of us have been trying and practicing and all that, you tend to see the limitations of this entertainment and, the other things like taking trips or whatever, like it's short-lived pleasures, right? You see through the kind of like that stuff isn't long lasting, those pleasures or entertainments or whatever. And yet, like, you're here in this body and mind. So it's almost like somebody said this a few classes back, like you kind of just develop this apathy almost. You know what I mean? It's hard not to. It's hard not to fall into that but you're not, because you're not fully enlightened, right? Or you're not like a wise person yet. You're on this journey, but yet you realize that these other things are not really worth pursuing. And you're just kind of in no man's land in the middle. And that's where, for me, that's the hardest part, to manage the mind and how to deal with that.
Not necessarily. There's no question of apathy or coldness. If that happens, then there's something missing. See, objects are not an issue. People are not an issue. Relationships are not an issue. There's no object out there that's an enemy. What is the issue then? Because there is an issue, clearly. So if objects are not an issue, to which I then say, I don't need it, entertainment is useless. There's no such thing as useless or non-useless. It's just there to serve the needs of those who want to how themselves out a little bit. What is the issue then? If objects are not an issue, what is an issue?
Issue is your perception.
The issue is your perception of objects. What does an object mean for me? What value attribution do I have onto objects? That becomes a personal matter, not a universal matter. So when there is a question of apathy or distancing or sort of a grief or this form of things are now, valueless, they're useless, that doesn't even arise because the object never had any value to begin with. You see? So now suddenly say that, oh, now that I'm in the spiritual work and suddenly objects are losing the value and, becoming sort of these, whatever, useless things. What you're really saying is what I'm doing for the first time ever is I'm starting to realize that I've been giving these objects false value all along. And I'm just now trying to reevaluate and starting to see them objectively. They're neither positive nor negative. They are what I make them to be. So now we could reframe the whole situation of objects are becoming disinteresting or the whole gloomy approach. We can reframe that and say, hey, change is happening. I'm starting to see things for the first time as they really are. And I'm not comfortable because it is not something that you're taught in a society. If anything, you're taught the glass of with an umbrella at the beach. This is the lifestyle to have. The woman with the skirts and the high heels. This is the lifestyle to have. The car, this and that. This is the lifestyle to have. And so when you come to a stage and you say, look, this has a place for people. It just doesn't have a place for me anymore. Then a question comes, then what has a place for me? Because the world is there to help you. If you allow it, there's no thing there trying to hurt you unless you interpret it as such. So the next question arises, okay, now that I'm starting to see things with a little more objectivity, and instead of calling it disinteresting or cold or useless or empty, let me just say, appreciate it. Thank you very much for serving me and helping me through all these years, which I thought you were, worthy of pursuit. Now the question is, what's next? And so your
Right.
focus simply changes. That's all that happens. Focus changes. No question of more dismissal. Just thank you. All right, I found my new group. I found my new next stage of life to pursue. That's all that happens.
Can I just say though that there's still a social distancing between the purveying sort of ethos and cultural norms of have to have not that you have to, but you obviously need a job or a nice house, or there's still the capitalistic society and war society that we live in. And whilst I'm not embroiled in that directly, like it doesn't bother me individually, I can see that, but you still have to perform with the people around you who might be drunk all the time or go on about money or stocks and shares, and therefore there is a natural reactive apathy that develops that you still have to address with the mind because you're in between two lands, as was just said. Do you know what I mean? There's like a new level of, well, where am I within this change? Like, and obviously we can talk in this group and I find it so useful, but what about the rest of the week? Because you still encounter people who are just maybe blind to this knowledge. And whilst there's no judgment there, it's still tricky to negotiate and solidify. But I suppose that's just another stage of the change, isn't it?
Yeah, and really, we cannot really influence others and speak for them. We can only speak for where we're at. And I mean, maybe suppose you're involved in a corporate situation where you do still have to wear certain clothes and appear in a way that you believe yourself, you far outgrown that, but you still have to wear a tie and act professional. Then sure, at the transactional level, it's absolutely necessary, and we can appreciate it that this is necessary for survival, and this is how the world and society is made. And I cannot just start to rebel now, because now that causes another problem. So what now? Spirituality is a ticket to rebel against that which has been working all along. Why reinvent the wheel? Continue doing what you've been doing all along. It's working. Just the relationship to what you're doing slightly starts to become more healthy. It's no longer, let me show off myself and how successful I am. You just do it quietly, because it's necessary. But performing, putting up a big, what a face if it's required, that's necessary. Because if you start to come to a job and say, hey, boss, we're all just, here, one, big family, try and work out things out, and you too, have little emotional pressures to work through, you're fired the next day. So we're not going to say that. So still you have to pretend like you're playing this role, this part. But when you go home, that is your time. But at work and society, let's not see. Krishna says once, do not disturb the unwise. Don't go around saying, this what you're doing is just utterly useless. This is going to get you nowhere, right? You're just repeating the same cycle again and again, and it's never going to end. And one day you'll come to the knowledge and realize that this is just not getting you anywhere.
It's so hard though not to say that or think that, or more even so to think it. And then when you're around people who don't agree with you, like they try to push their behavior on you, whether it's getting drunk or chasing money or whatever. They start to treat you like, what's wrong with you? Like you're weird now, or you're boring, or whatever. It's really hard to function in society, when you're just on such a different path than most people.
And that's brilliant. I know, Massimo and Radhika, because you will soon see in the verse, excellent that happens, because that is your perfect opportunity to get your act together, to change your perception about how others are thinking. This is what you're bringing up is crucial. For many years, I found we all have a weak spot. And there's a very deep impression that we have, and I call that the weak spot. And I found one of the big weak spots for many is when, what Sharmila is saying, when there's a disagreement or they think you're weird or, they don't agree with you, then what do we do inside our heads towards them later on? Do we have like a pretty picture of them? Oh, you know, they're an angel, you know, they're to teach me, they're my teacher. Or it's opposite that, okay? Be honest, like it's most likely opposite that. And I was really annoyed by that because it was also in this mind too. And I said, you know, what do I do about this? Because I really want to change this pattern that's deeply ingrained in culture called the judgment pattern, the judgmental pattern. And I said, well, what happens every time? Well, a certain theme of thoughts come through. So I said, then what if I created a rule for myself that every time my mind does that, I will create a mantra and it goes like this. This person is carrying a lot more than I see. And I thought, wow, I think I'll stick with that. This person is carrying a lot more than I see. That became my default mantra. Slowly, slowly, more and more, this became the dominating thought, replacing that long-lived judgment. That was another overnight shift. You see, change is possible. Just investigate, ongoing investigation, and you'll break through. So this is what I want to say in response to what Sharmili said, that yes, let them judge me, let them criticize me. Thank you, because it gives me a chance to say, you are carrying so much more than I see. And that starts an inquiry in me to help understand society even more, to help understand human psychology even deeper. What better opportunity to learn about yourself and humanity than when you're triggered? Please trigger me. I would love that, because that's when the real teachings come.
I think it also creates empathy, thinking that way.
Excellent.
Not knowing the whole story of the person's life and what has either traumatized them into thinking the way they do, or having ignorance of certain types of subjects or whatever. And then you see that none of us really have the full picture, and it can create empathy as to why someone acts the way they do.
And the more you have this chance to develop empathy towards others, the more you develop empathy towards and patience towards yourself. See, this is karma yoga. Every challenge, every hardship, every friction that you encounter becomes your guardian angel or your little teacher. That's karma yoga. Turning everything, every opportunity into a learning experience, especially the hardships.
So I have this question. So now you come to the conclusion that you're the all-pervading consciousness and not this body-mind. But then you have to be, so you are like watching your own body-mind. It's impersonal, you're impersonal to your own self. It's just another object. But then, so then it's just doing its own shenanigans, right? It's not keeping, my biggest problem is not keeping the promises to my own self. Like get up on time, eat right, exercise, or like, be like this. So where I spend my most time, if I'm spending more time in the phenomenal world, taking care of this body mind, then, I'm coming away from the plane of like, hey, this is just impersonal. So I think more and more I want to spend time with the self, which means the body mind has to be brought up to the level of not to disturb the self spending time on the self. That's the issue. So I'm thinking that we have to yoke this body mind to the self, or like, there has to be like an equal plane where they can all be brought together.
Okay. So I'll bring this into two categories, what Radhika said. See, in Vedanta, we have two paths, and they both lead to one path only. There's only one path, which is moksha. Moksha is owning up that there's nothing that I need to do. I don't need to witness anyone. There's only me here. Okay, so that's an effortless, constant recognition. There's no question of spending time doing that. That is who you are. You are the very one that's in the presence of whom this person now called Andre is known to you. That you is the so-called witness, consciousness. You don't have to do anything about this, do you, Radhika? This experience of Radhika's head now shaking, Andre saying these words. It's just effortlessly, this whole moment between you and I is taking place. These words are going on. I am saying this to you. You are listening to me. Your mouth is effortlessly smiling. The body is sitting down on the chair. This whole thing is going on without any effort whatsoever. That is because you are that which is ever true, ever available. Nothing need be done to simply be that witness. So whatever question gets asked in relation to the witness, that question too is witnessed by the witness. Need not do anything about it. So now, that is the first answer. Now, when it comes to the person called Radhika who just asked this question, that person will continue and has to continue doing the right form of actions, the right well-intended actions in this world, according to your duties, your responsibilities to those who are around you, to those who you have to attend to, right? To, cleaning the house and, buying things here and there. This continues. This is called the Radhika person. That person, has a certain, intention to live out this life according to her trajectory. We call that prarabdha karma. That trajectory belongs to Radhika. Let that run out. Let that continue. All throughout that, there's an effortless being, effortless I. And that I is the very I in whose presence this conversation is now known to you. It's known to you. That you to whom this conversation is known to need not do this witnessing. It's already witnessing automatically. So now to say that actions that Radhika does are distracting me, the witness, from being the witness, it doesn't make sense. You understand? Because I cannot be overwritten by actions. I am that which is ever available, ever true, the witnessing presence in whom there's a concern belonging to Radhika's mind who's questioning whether this witness is going to be displaced by Radhika's actions in this world. But the witness will not be displaced because it cannot. There's always that being, conscious, awareful being, presence, because of which every experience is known, every lack of experience is known, every epiphany is known, every confusion is known. You need not do anything about that witness because that is you. So to ask the question or to imply that the actions done by the person are going to cover up the witness, that simply doesn't make sense. So what I want to say is you cannot be covered. Even the question that you're about to ask me now, that too is being witnessed by the witness. But now watch Radhika ask a question. Watch this.
Right. So like you replied to Sharmili, so when the me is there, then the self is not there. I mean, the self is always there, but when the me is there, the me predominates, right? So we don't want this me.
Well, the me is already here now, because of which this conversation is known to this me. It's simple as that. So you don't have to discuss this me because the discussion happens in the presence of me. So whether you say the me exists or not, the me is known to me or not, that too is witnessed by the me. Therefore, we leave the me alone. Because it is not an object that can be touched, that can be investigated into. It is simply you in this moment. You need not worry about the me. In fact, 99.9% of all concerns are in relation to the person doing the right thing in this world. And the person doing the right things in the world, they clear up their mind. And the more they do, the easier they own up that me need not be touched. And that is called moksha. that I no longer have to investigate this me, because me is the very presence in whom the investigator is known to be investigating. And that takes some time. So that's not something that there's no magical formula to it. It's just time.
Based on what we are discussing, would you say on one level it's about bringing together duality and non-duality?
I would say that it is about reconciling that duality does not contradict non-duality. For instance, I have a wooden cup, a wooden plate, and a wooden table. In fact, the wooden table is right here. Now, all of them at the level of duality, they have a name. One has a table, one has a cup, one has a plate, right? So they're all duality, they're all different. You want a cup, I don't want a cup, I want a table. So we're fighting, right? We're fighting over objects. But essentially, all three of them are wood. So this means what is moksha is a recognition that there's a world of variety, a dualistic world. But if I analyze that world closely, I will see that that world ultimately resolves into smaller and smaller and smaller constituents, ultimately just atoms. Your room is just a bunch of atoms. My room is just a bunch of atoms. So as you notice, the more you analyze it, go deeper into reality, the more one it becomes. You see, right now, there's a picture behind, there's a book, there's a white shirt, there's glasses, there is, a white shirt, there is a picture there. It's so much variety. But the deeper we go inside these objects, I analyze your frame, your picture, I just go, this is a bunch of neutrons, protons, and electrons. And you analyze my picture and you go, it's a bunch of neutrons, protons, and electrons. Oh, now we have reached at oneness already. It's just oneness. Now, if we analyze even deeper, then we will find that those protons, neutrons, electrons, their reality is nothing but intelligence. And that intelligence is what we call Ishvara, the cause of the universe, which we have discussed already. And that intelligence ultimately has its reality in consciousness. And that consciousness is known to you right now, as Radhika was saying, that is the effortless witness in whose presence this conversation is going on. So ultimately, so you're not away from the final cause of the universe. This is the message. You're not away from that which you are seeking. Because that which you are seeking is just ordinary awareness. And there's not one person here who's not aware. Therefore, you already have, quote, have what you are seeking. And that awareness is the final cause of the universe. Therefore, when we say, yes, it is about reconciling differences into the one, which is already available right here, right now, as my self-evident I. And that is a cognitive process. It's not an experience, because reality is already the one. It's already complete. Right now, nothing need be done to reality. The ignorant mind looks at the world of variety and says, differences, differences, differences. I want this, I don't want that. The wise person looks at that very same world, and where does their mind rest on? I'm only seeing Ishvara here. Intelligence. And that intelligence ultimately collapses into my own truth, which is existence, consciousness, Satchit. Nothing needs to be fixed. Yeah. And that's the ultimate wisdom. Nothing needs to be fixed. And even if you fix it, for how long is it going to be fixed? Until some other person comes with their own ideology and reverses everything? This show has been going on for eons. It will never end. No matter what you fixed, guess what? Someone's going to unfix it. I fixed only to be unfixed. And even the person, don't forget yourself, even if you fix the person, have you really fixed the person? No, because you have a brand new person coming out next birth. You only fixed an 80-year-old entity. Until a brand new entity comes out, who once again is broken, and by the time they're in high school, they get on the wrong side of the kids, new belief systems, new cultural distortions, and by the time they're 25, now they're working for the rest of their life to undo the distortions acquired from 0 to 4 or 0 to 6. One time, a fella who I was listening to for a long time, Brian Tracy, said that you spend the first 0 to 6 basically establishing the essence of your personality. And then 6 to the last breath, you spend time undoing all of those distortions you've acquired 0 to 6. What a life, huh? So every single life like this, you're just undoing distortions. Therefore, you can't really fix the person. You can only understand, I am free of the person. That is the only solution.
Andre, so I was gonna add on to, I think that was Sharmili's question about when you start reading and contemplating more on this knowledge, you feel isolated in the group. So I think it's one of your lecture or maybe one of the books of Swami Dayananda where he speaks about intellectual value and subjective value of an object. I feel that that fits here perfectly, because when you start studying Vedanta, then you lose intellectual value of those objects which you have created, and maybe you still have those subjective values when you feel, hey, I'm not being entertained. You have that subjective value for that object, that you, when you do, or you, when you get that object, you are in a group of a company and you feel appreciated, and then it further goes back to ultimately happiness. Like that subjective value itself is leaning towards that it makes you full or makes you happy. And when you know that you are full, then that subjective value, I guess, also goes away. I mean, you already.
And also when you know you're full, you can actually, for the first time, enjoy objects properly. Because you no longer have an agenda that this object's supposed to please me. And what if this object leaves tomorrow? So I keep it now, you know, I manipulate it, create little fishy games so to keep it down and not have it leave. So that's the beauty. And someone asked this question, what's the practical value of moksha? For the first time ever, you have a healthy, absolutely healthy relationship with objects. There's no more agenda. And that's lovely. That's a lovely way to live. So you cannot go wrong with this knowledge. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.